Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. I took last week off because I had a lot of work to do for my day job. It was tedious and annoying. And I got done almost just about a time that we'd record, but I was so burnt out from the day, I was like, wrestling, do we need it? No. So that would have been last week's show. It was not going to be a good show. This week's show is still not going to be a good show, but we have more energy at least, and that's a good thing. I am your host, as always, Chad Porto. Joining me is the glorious one himself, Marcus Green. Marcus, how the hell are you?
Good, man. Like I said, glad we can have the flexibility within in both our schedules to kind of be able to navigate those weeks when we be like, not gonna be hitting this week. Let's just push it back.
Yeah, I got a changeover in assignments for my job, so I ended up needing all the extra help I can get. I've written more in the last 18, 17 days than I have in any other 18-day period tenfold. It's absurdist and stupid, but I did it. I did it. Speaking of doing it, Cody did a thing. Apparently, he's doing a big ol' documentary, probably on A&E. I don't know what it is. I'm not gonna watch it. Anything involving WWE and documentaries is not worth your time. They will never tell you the truth. They will quite literally flub, flip, flam, and flamboozle just to get an interesting headline or to stir up controversy. I mean, all you got to do is realize that Vince McMahon is in charge of that company. And he authored the Four Horsemen and Ultimate Warrior DVD retrospectives. In the Ultimate Warrior retrospective, they literally just had everyone crap on him. Now, granted, he's a douchebag, so it wasn't unwelcomed. But the Four Horsemen one, they deliberately antagonized Paul Roma to get the reaction they wanted so they could get Ric Flair on record shooting on Mr. Roma. Apparently, the first time he sat down to talk to them, Roma was very complimentary of them. Didn't have an ill word to say, but then when they were like, yeah, here's what Ric Flair said. Roma went off the hilt, but Roma never said the things that Roma was told never were said. Until they said, hey, Flair, watch this Roma clip. And then Flair went off on Roma. So there's a lot of manipulation and a lot of douchebaggery that goes on with anything that involves WWE and documentaries. You can't trust them. It's like Fox News. You can't. You can't trust them. Newsmax, CNN, can't trust them. Who can you trust? Me. So, with that being said, Cody goes on to say he left AEW for a personal reason in the documentary, saying, this is one of my requests in this entire documentary. This one answer. I don't want edited in any capacity. Don't edit this part. I can't tell you why I left AEW. I can't and I won't, but I'll tell you the reasons that were said that didn't actually matter. I didn't leave AEW because of the money, and I didn't leave AEW because of other talents. I left AEW because of a personal issue. That's it. The byproduct of leaving AEW is the opportunity to go for my biggest dream that I ever had, and the first dream I had in my life. Triple H then takes a shot at the company, saying to then take that gamble again and say, this is not what I wanted to be. I didn't grow up dreaming of being the champion of a secondary promotion. I wanted to be a WWE champion. That's a douchey thing to say. But it wasn't in this article I found, but it was probably in a WrestleZone one. The Cody quote also went on to say that he was very complimentary of Tony Khan. He spoke very highly about him, thanked him. So clearly, whatever the personal issue wasn't with Tony Khan. And considering he's still married and still has a dog and now has a daughter, I would imagine that none of the personal issues were with his personal life. So that makes me think that maybe the personal issues weren't so much with the other talent being brought in, because that's what he means, at least that's what I'm alluding to, or thinking that he's alluding to, when he says he didn't leave because of other talents, because one of the rumors, if I remember correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, was that he left because guys like Dean Ambrose and Bryan Danielson and all of them were coming in and taking his thunder, so to speak. Maybe it wasn't Bryan Danielson, maybe it wasn't CM Punk, but there were guys coming in taking his thunder, allegedly. Now, that doesn't seem to be the case. but a personal issue does. Now, one of the things we were discussing about why the face of a company would leave after just 2 or 3 years was internal infighting. And we've had discussions, we've heard rumors about how the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega do things. There were rumors that Cody and the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega weren't speaking anymore, that they were no longer involved in the same side of the business. None of the people that were brought up in this quote were the Young Bucks or Kenny Omega. And I would imagine if the rumors about me having issues with my colleagues, my co-EVPs, were out there, and the rumors were like, yeah, they don't like each other, but in fact, we do like each other, I would go on record saying, no. The Bucks of Youth and the Canadian Omega, we are on good terms. He did not say those things. He did not allude to those things. He did not suggest those things. He did not say things that would make you think, yeah, he's talking the good. No. He hasn't said anything positive about the Young Bucks or Kenny Omega. He hasn't mentioned them in anything I've ever seen since he left. Maybe he's mentioned them in passing, but it hasn't been a significant quote, which makes me think that he and the Young Bucks and Omega had some issues as EVPs, and they were the reason why Cody left. It's hyperbole. It's speculation. It's not provable in a court of law with what the information that we have. But I think it's enough to say, yeah, with what's not being said, if you read the negative space of what's not being said, I think it's a pretty interesting picture. Marcus, you on the board, you on the wagon, you on the train that Cody left because of the other EVPs?
There's only one reasonable explanation. It's not Kenny Omega or the Bucks. They're being used as a smokescreen to hide the true culprit as to why Cody's no longer there. The real mastermind behind his personal beef is Tony Schiavone.
I knew it. I saw it coming a mile away. Could only be Schiavone.
This is that damn Schiavone. Yeah, that has to be it. He's claw in that company. You won't tell me otherwise.
Long live the king.
But yeah, it's interesting. Like, I don't know if we'll ever find out, what went on there. Obviously that those three names are the easiest to kind of point to, because outside of Tony, and seemingly everybody else would be under Cody in terms of performers on the roster. Those are the only other guys you can point at, and then Punk came in after he left, correct?
I think so.
So
I think he left in the fall, because I think CM Punk joined up with AEW a few months before Cody debuted at WrestleMania.
Yeah. So and I don't see him having no beef with Jericho.
And not a beef enough that would make you think, yeah, that's enough to leave the company, because Jericho has no pull in this company. If he and Jericho had such a tawdry issue that resulted in needing one of them to go, it'd be Jericho. It wouldn't be Cody. So, like, the only people that couldn't be fired, Young Bucks and Omega.
Yeah, and I feel like Jericho takes that particular veteran status as serious as you will, consider the fact of how much was put on his shoulders when he initially signed to the company. And in a lot of ways, I'm pretty sure, I mean, he watched Cody grow up. That's a completely different relationship, I would imagine, to what obviously that initial friendship was between Cody, the Bucks, and Omega. So I probably rule Jericho out there as well. Also, he's at this stage where he doesn't really need to as you would say, the drama of it all.
Drama.
He's a made man. You know what I'm saying? Like Jericho, he could easily be like, screw all this. I'll go and sing freaking Judas till I'm on a walker, around the world. So, yeah. But I also feel like there's an element. I feel like that's a strong element of it. I also feel like another element is he obviously had a chip on his shoulder in regards to WWE, and had a lot of frustrations coming out of that previous run he had. particularly because he didn't leave on the best of notes. I mean, he left pretty much under that Stardust gimmick, which was, I would imagine, as equally frustrating as it was of a creative outlet. Um, but I think, for the most part, what we saw in a lot of his AEW stuff was him throwing a bit of a tantrum, a mantrum, if you will, and he had to get a lot of that stuff out. Now, I don't know, because this also got brought up in the documentary and clips that got released about, and maybe you saw this where Kevin Owens say Vince flew to his house to get him back.
Mm.
I don't know if that happened in the midst of the negotiations for his potentiality to return to AEW, or this was in the aftermath of that. But I think there was always something, like it is with most of these guys who we talk about consistently, when they leave the company and they have a chip on their shoulder, like, I'm going to prove these suckers wrong, and I'm going to come back proving that I should have been I'm a main event guy. I feel like he always kind of wanted to come back, even if it got to a point, because I also think a huge sour point of that whole detachment was him not being able to take that name, because that was a huge thing. So I feel like there was a lot of bad blood there, and that kind of ended up getting sold up with the help of whatever personal issues he had with AEW, on top of, the evil old man coming to his house and kind of coaxing him back in as well. I think it all kind of mixed in with a feeling of eventually wanting to go back anyway. So, yeah. And wasn't did Dusty pass before or uh during his AEW thing?
I think he passed before.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he did. He
Yeah.
passed in 2015, so 8
Gotcha.
years ago.
Yeah. So that yeah. So I imagine, like, he always secretly wanted to go back there, but between all the stuff, the shots he was taking at Triple H, and obviously he, come out, now talking about how much he looks up to him and what, but he was clearly was frustrated, pissed off, and very much wanting to poke holes at the bear, if you will. So yeah, I think it was all a mix, but I think, because I never saw the other part of that quote, but the whole thing about, like, I don't want you to edit this part out, but you kind of might as well, because it's not gonna be a juicy part, because I'm not gonna tell what everybody wants to know in the first place. So um, kudos on him. I think everything ended up working out, but it's just a weird kind of fall from grace, to where he started in that company, and then eventually it soured both on screen and behind the scenes, because
Marcus, he
it was
solved racism
in a
in a
single promo.
promo in front of next to nobody at the Daily Place.
It's so weird that he solved racism, and then not too long after that, a white man would come out and son his wife week. Ah, gotta love that irony.
It's some great irony. We're not done with the Cody irony, though. Cody went on to say that his heel run in AEW, which I didn't know he started, apparently was going to end with him wrestling Sting. Telling comicbook.com, I don't think I've ever shared that with anybody, and nothing was ever on paper or anything like that. But I can say I got tremendous offer from AEW creatively, financially, and the full package. You won't hear me say anything bad about AEW or Tony Khan or my time there. It was a tremendous offer. But the offer wasn't right for me. What I wanted to do was go back to my first goal, which was that winning the WWE Championship. But yeah, that probably would have been the end game. That's what had been discussed, was to want to have one match with one of my heroes, Sting. And it's just one of those things. You can wrestle one of your heroes, or you can work with one of your heroes, and he can be the head of creative. You can't have it all. But I think one thing that I do pride myself on as a wrestler is I will make a decision. It might be a left turn. You like that face tattoo, neck tattoo? It might be exactly where you think I'm going, but I will make a decision. I will not be stuck, because I felt like I'd been stuck early in my career and never wanted to be that way again. So I don't know if I want to see Sting versus Cody at any point in time. So I'm kind of... oh, no. I just saw a Public Enemy's podcast photo of Martin Luther King with a group of black people behind him, and then Cody Rhodes just had like a photo of him snipped out and pasted on it in black and white.
Yeah, those guys are consistent. I give them that. They are consistent. They're like the evolution. I feel like they're the like this whole thing was Pokemon. Like they're the evolution of Jutsu.
Mm-hmm.
You just take it to that next level. Shout out to Jutsu, but yeah, the Cody and who would be the heel in this scenario? Cody would be the heel against the face Sting.
Yeah. And like, listen, Sting can still kind of go for being in his 60s. I know I'm dumb enough to put every world title on him at any point in time at any given venture because I'm a lunatic. But I'm sure most people are like, I don't think a 63-year-old should be in the ring with a 36-year-old having a match. Maybe in a tag match, maybe tagging with, maybe tagging against. Sure, sure, sure. But a one-on-one,
Uh,
why? This is again Cody
yeah,
being Cody.
yeah. They clearly at no point has this person been an Impact fan during the mid to later 2000s. Uh, so that whole main event mafia run is a riddle with that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it'll be interesting. But it feels like something we already have seen in Impact, where Sting was the grizzled, you do this by a certain code of ethics and honor type veteran going against this young buck who's very much on the, you know, take this company by storm by any means necessary and be a trash champion along the way and kind of tarnish the brand, and this thing will be standing up for it. I feel like we've seen that'll obviously play into him knowing his dad and this, that, and the third, and we've seen that scenario play out a bunch. So, and that also come out weird because for a lot of that AEW run, Cody was getting turned on by friends, well, not family, but all his friends turned on him. All the veterans come in, kick him in the dick. Jade Cargill debuted bitch slapping him. So, it'd kind of suck to see him finally turn into an a-hole and then turn his ire to Sting, of all people. Like, go against Jericho, go against somebody else. But Sting ain't bothering nobody. Sting is a literal watcher on the wall until he needs to jump off something to make a point, then he does that. But,
More like a dangler from a ceiling, but the analogy works. I don't ever want to see Sting versus Cody. I don't want to see Cody versus anyone. I used to love Cody. Like when he left the company, I was like, ooh, let's see what happens. And then
I
he went on
remember
that
you.
really impressive indie tour. He did a decent little run in Impact, although it was far too short for my liking. Then he went
Yeah.
to Ring of Honor, where he ended up winning the Ring of Honor World Champion. That was pretty dope. And I think he peaked when he defeated Nick Aldis for the NWA World Championship at All In.
I remember how pumped you were about that whole match, how it went down, how I got executed. I remember how emotional you got
Yeah, it's still real good. I still like it.
about not even just. I mean, you very much loved that whole thing and the old school vibe and how it was presented and everything. But you actually got emotional about the "I don't need such and
Mm-hmm.
such. I need my brother." That
Mm-hmm.
promo.
I don't need a tag team partner. I need my brother. And he and
Yeah.
Dustin embraced
Which
in the ring on the second
which
ever AEW show.
which thinking about it now, kind of harking back to that promo that Dusty had when he uh was in the ring with Dustin all them years ago, and he was like, I need, will you tag with this old man, and uh, let me be next to you instead of you next to me, that whole deal. But yeah, I wouldn't. I don't know if I'd actually want to see that. I mean, I think it'll work mostly for Sting because Cody will very much be protecting him and not throwing him into the goddamn buckle with a power bomb. But yeah, I
That's the
don't.
hope.
He said that's the hope. I mean, but the most dangerous thing Cody would do is what a multiple. I'm about to call it rolling of the dice. That's what they call his finisher in the video games. But multiple crossroads, you know.
Well, the
So
roll of the dice used to belong to a WCW wrestler by the name of Reno, who had the
yeah,
coolest ponytail in the history of wrestling. Like, his entire head was shaved, except for the one part of his head that was a ponytail. It was
In-
adorable.
interesting. Yeah. So
So yeah, Cody Cody doing Cody things. Lastly, Cody went on to talk about how he felt he let the documentary team down. I felt, to be totally honest, I felt like I let the crew down because the documentary is clear the guy is supposed to win at the end. I feel like I had to let them down. You had to let it go out of your hands. It's about you. You can't touch it. You have to let them tell their story. I'm very proud of the story I told. I thought it was fair. I thought it was honest. I have to thank Matt and Nick Jackson for allowing BTE footage and allowing a collaboration to exist in the first place. It's about me, so I can't say it's amazing. It's terrible. I'm very interested to see how the whole world, the whole pro wrestling world takes it and if they enjoy it. It's a very special thing to film, and as much as I was very annoyed by the presence on a regular basis, I was annoyed more than they weren't there and they were gone. I kept saying, come back. I'm going to wrestle Brock. It's a cool thing. I hope we can do a part 2. I really do. If we can't, it's okay. I'm going to make my own part 2. I'm not going to be so brazen and cavalier to accuse and dub Cody Rhodes a narcissist. But the fucker's a narcissist.
Oh, that needs to be clipped.
I mean, like, the dude is so high on his own supply, he doesn't even see the forest through the trees. And if I say another goddamn analogy or metaphor, I'm going to slap myself in the face because I feel like I'm slightly broken. I don't know what Cody is huffing, but he sure as shit needs to stop. Why do people like him?
I think a lot of it has to do with all his dad. And look, if he's at all some type of, when we don't see him, lights turn down, and he's just insincere a-hole at his core. We never know it because he sells the hell out of it. Like I said, he's got a very good politician-like smile, presentation. Where's the suit? Where's the, gets the crowd behind him. Shaking hand, kissing babies, that whole deal. He's a hell of a seller, So
Kissing hand, shaking babies. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah, shaking hand, kissing babies, that whole deal. The dog, the Cody Luther King Jr. of it all. It's a sell, So, and even if people know otherwise, we talk about this most of the time with comic book fans. They will convince themselves so they won't have to deal with reality. And if the narrative around something is good enough, they'll deal with the truth when they absolutely have to.
And that's the politician of it all is very much what I was thinking. I feel like he's the kind of guy that goes in front of the mirror and recites the things he wants to say, stops, rejiggers it, and then comes back and then says it differently to make him seem more approachable. I feel like this man protects his image so hard because all he is his image. I mean, he got his damn logo on his neck so people would always know who he is. There's a level of narcissism there. It may not be clinical narcissism, but he's certainly very invested with who he is to the point where he will curate everything he says almost to an unnatural degree. That's how it comes off. It's an opinion, not a statement of fact. I cannot be sued for having an opinion. I want to make that abundantly clear. I know the law. So he comes off as very fake and phony. And before, when he was doing his stuff in Impact, with Dustin, with Nick Aldis, he wasn't so readily available for all of these big bombastic interviews. He wasn't going out and giving these quotes. He wasn't being interviewed by documentary services. Most wrestling podcasters, if they get their hands on a wrestler the size of Cody, usually play it pretty straight and narrow. And I'm saying this is somebody who has done that before. It's why I don't do it anymore. I don't like feeling that I cannot ask the real questions. So Cody never really had to worry about being exposed until he got to AEW, where they had a media empire behind the company, where he had to do scrums, where he had to do interviews with big tier talk shows. And then all of a sudden you start to hear these weird, nonsensical things coming out about him. And his promos that he was writing himself all of a sudden started to reveal somebody who really believed he was the hero, not just of his own story, but of every story. It was hero Cody Rhodes. Now, listen, I don't like the Bucks and Omega, and personally, I would very much like it to be a situation where Cody's the good guy in that whatever it is, whether they fell out or not. But I have a sneaking suspicion, while I know the Young Bucks are bullies and Omega has some very shadowy, less than scrupulous individuals in his life, I very much believe that Cody probably was the reason the falling out, if there was a falling out, happened in the first place. Simply because of the way he acts, the way he talks, and the way he behaves. It's very scripted. And I don't just mean the promos. I mean his life feels very scripted. And I think that's bothersome. Now, again, it's an opinion, just a theory, just a game theory. But it's one I think that holds water. We won't know for another 10, 15, 20 years. Eventually the truth will come out. Eventually people will be like, oh my God, let me tell you about how great Cody was, or let me tell you how terrible Cody was.
Yeah.
It will come out. It just, which side will come out too.
When in the alternate reality, when there's, or in 10 years' time, when they're doing the bright side of the ring, and he'll be on there, maybe then we'll get something. Because I can't see it being the alternative, honestly.
How ironic would be if people memed the Cody solved racism so much, so often, so constantly that it retroactively actually solved racism. That would be unexpected.
Yeah, solving racism, a conversation between Cody Rhodes and Hulk Hogan. Yes.
He loves black people. Why do you think he keeps saying brother? Brother. Hulk Hogan is somebody that I've absolutely separated the art and person from.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And actually, recently I just watched, and you probably watched it or caught up with it years ago, because it was this episode of this show called Rich and Shameless. It basically covers the Hulk Hogan versus Gawker stuff. Which is some real interesting notes, and even and obviously during that time, one of the big things was, some the racist stuff that he said that was on that tape, on whatever tapes that leaked that came out, and it was interesting. Just another reminder of one of them situations. Funny you talked about concept of people being lying early, and it immediately made me think of Hogan. You'd be like, how do you know he's lying?
Because
was he talking? Because he's speaking. Was he talking? Yeah, and he's lying.
Was he breathing? Yeah, he wasn't lying. Why you always lying? If Hulk Hogan tried to say, tell me when I'm telling lies, he wouldn't get past the tell me. Because they'd be like, you're lying.
He's like, we never made it past the title sequence. I don't know what happened.
Speaking of title sequences, Great American Bash was last night from Cedar Park, Texas. And it was a show. It's about all I can say about it. It was fine. I am very much done with the indie wrestling main event. It felt like the last 10 minutes of the Hayes Dragunov match was just them doing big moves, powdering, big move, powdering, big move, powdering. It's like, oh, cool. So it's just doing high spots, but slower. Dope. I didn't like it. I liked the beginning of it, though. Like, it started off with so much potential because Hayes isn't a grappler. Dragunov is. First thing Hayes does, try to grapple with Dragunov. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And like for the first 10 minutes, I was highly entertained. And then it's just big move, spot, pin, kick out. Big move, spot, pin, kick out. It's like, oh, I see the formula has returned. Never you mind. I am good. Hayes retains. They did do a decent job making you think early on that Dragunov could win the match, which is what you need for main event matches, even when you don't even when you know that the other guy's gonna win, you need that sense of, well, I know he's going to, but is he? And I actually had that though when Macklin took on not Frankie, took on Alex Shelley in Impact in June. I really thought Macklin was gonna win. So when Shelley won, I was like, wait, the what? And there's a moment where I thought that was happening with Dragunov and Hayes early on, and that's a good thing. Not that Hayes was going to lose, but because they were able to tell a story that convinced me that it could happen. Now, it didn't, and the ending became very contrite, and the ending was just dog trash terrible, where Dragunov went to hit Hayes, and then like Hayes moved, but they're like, Trick, I think, pushed him. And I'm like, I don't think Trick did. And Dragunov hit Trick, but then Dragunov was dead, and then Hayes threw him in the ring, and I think he hit him with his finisher one more time and got the pin. I'm like, ugh. That was bad. That was really bad. That's bad. I didn't like it. Marcus, I'm sure we have different opinions, though. Did you like the main event?
Yeah, I thought it was great. Those are two of the best guys, not just in NXT, but in the company to me. I think Ilya Dragunov is, I mean, this is a guy that beat Walter, obviously, now Gunda. But he's one of the best. Like, he's like a bite-sized Sheamus or something. He's in that ilk with Gunther and Sheamus and McIntyre and all those guys, and obviously those UK performers are just built differently anyway. But he's a special brand of, like, you got to watch this guy. And obviously Carmelo is ace right now. Just seeing his rise has been great. I thought they had a great match. I think this is probably one of, if not to this date, Melo's best match. I think a lot of it has to do with just Ilya, just being as good as he is. And like you said, at the beginning of the match was real great. And you kind of, and this is kudos to Ilya, like, you really felt like, because obviously he's coming off with a great match against Braun, as we call it here, Bricker.
Braun Breaker?
Yeah, Braun Bricker Schmidt. And yeah, you kind of really, got the vibes early on, like Melo might not have the tools to properly take this guy out, you know, uh, unless something kind of transpires, which something did, which I don't think it needed to happen, but maybe they're doing a double-sided thing here of this isn't done between the two of them, and there's still an ongoing beef because obviously Ilya's main beef is with Hayes, but he keeps getting into it with Trick, who even at his best can't really rock with somebody like Dragunov, even though he's outside, he's got him by size and power and with all that stuff. None of that matters against somebody like Ilya. But they also may be playing another side of it where it's like he, and to his credit, that's kind of half the point. Him taking shots for Melo to make sure that Melo doesn't miss. Like, I would imagine that this stuff is eventually going to add up potentially, and I personally wouldn't turn him, but eventually, if there is a breakup, for it to be like, I took all these shots for you, I'm the reason why you're still him, and that whole thing. Obviously, if they go to the main roster and Vince gets his hands on him, that's going to be immediate. But yeah, I thought it was a great main event. Like you said, the call was fair. It's always interesting watching NXT. I appreciate the fact that they've taken time to use some of the concepts that the main roster is either left behind or running to the ground, and put them in NXT where it feels like they've been reinvigorated, like the Great American Bash, the name of the shows, some of the match types, obviously, and certain other concepts. So NXT is coming along. I still don't really click with a lot of their talent, but to your point, what you said some shows back, at least everybody does stand out with a unique personality.
And I think that's fair. Yes, sir. Especially when you look at like Tiffany Stratton, she looks like a star. She doesn't wrestle like one. Thea Hall was interesting. A lot of energy there, but the talent isn't there yet. She's only 19. She has plenty of time to get better, but I feel like she's too quick with her feet and she's not settling under herself enough, because it felt like she was always about to fall over. And Tiffany Stratton's not a great worker. She looks good. And that's kind of become the NXT Women's title, is like, do you look good? Then you'll hold it. Because
athletic is, yeah.
It's not even, like I wouldn't even say because they're athletic. Like I don't think Tiffany Stratton's all that athletic. At least not from what I saw in that match. I haven't seen a lot of her, so like
Yeah,
very easily she could be far more than she was.
yeah,
But I've seen enough of Tiffany Stratton to say that if she has an athletic background in something else, and I think she does, I don't think it's translating well to wrestling. I think she's very stiff. I think she's very unoriginal. I think she's very uninteresting. I think she's all character, which is fine. She could be this generation's Mr. Anderson, but she's got to be a bit more than just pop culture isms and blonde hair. She's got to find that next level. I don't know what that is. So, like, Mandy Rose held the belt for a while, and that kind of started off this trend. Roxanne Perez is amazing, very talented, but they didn't give her a long run. And then Indy Hartwell had it, and then she got hurt. Or because she got drafted. No, she got hurt. That's right. Because didn't they do like the whole thing where like Dexter Loomis like carried her away?
yeah. And that's it. And I wish they do more with him too, because we know how talented that guy is from a lot of different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's interesting you talk about the woman real quick to you. Well, if your point, it's the weirdest thing because to me, Roxanne is that girl. Like she's amazing. She obviously she's comes from Booker T school and whatnot, and I appreciate the fact that they allow that to carry over, and we see him mentoring her even on the NXT roster because obviously he's on commentary, but it's almost like she has the connectivity with the crowd like a Willow Nightingale has, but Stratus has the look.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll go with Stratus for the look and allow her to kind of have that Mandy type of thing over somebody like Perez who, doesn't necessarily have the aesthetic that they would want for that, the championship. Because there was a point, I think Athena brought this up on the show where there was damn near a mandate at one point for girls to look more or start in their demeanor or whatever, or maybe it was the demeanor and aesthetic overall to start being more like Mandy.
That explained
So
Nikita Lyons.
yeah, yeah, and she's at this point being known for being injury prone as much as she is for her thickness. Um, but yeah, that kind of sucks for people like Roxanne because it's I don't know like that it's working for Athena. She's killing it as the Ring of Honor champion. But like you said, Roxanne to me has the connectivity with the crowd and the in ring work. Certainly character wise as well to kind of meld everything together. But it's that eye popping thing that they have. And I feel like Stratton was the next easiest transition coming off of the Mandy thing. Uh, for whatever reason, they let her go. I'm like, I mean, I think it's tied to the OnlyFans, but I'm like, she's not the only one in the industry, and I don't even think in their company that has OnlyFans. But I guess she took it a little too far for their personal taste. So, um, but yeah, NXT is it's coming along.
So here's how out of the loop I've been with some of the NXT stuff. I didn't realize that Adrian or Andre Chase was one of the Bravado brothers from Ring of Honor. Ah,
I don't even know who that is. The Bravado brother.
yeah, Harlem and Lance Bravado.
Oh,
I think Lance Bravado retired from wrestling, and Harlem went on to be Andre Chase, the head of Chase U.
yeah,
So the rest of the show was all right. The family defeated Gallus
yeah.
to win the NXT Tag Team Champions. That's fine. More Italian stereotypes. Gotta love them. Marcus, don't you love Italian stereotypes? It's okay because they're Italian. Appreciate that. Roxanne Perez defeated Blair Davenport. Again, I was like, wait, that's Bae Priestley or Bea Priestley. I was like when did she sign with them? Like, I've been out of NXT and WWE for a little while, so like, ooh.
Yeah.
I didn't see the Gable Stevens Baron Corbin match, but it ended in a double count out, so it couldn't have been good.
All in on Stevens. Go Corbin is far more useful.
How did
In
Gable
a
look?
run. Huh?
How did Gable look in this match? Did he look good?
He looked good. He
Did
looked
he?
good. You give him some more time and put him in the right position. to me, he's a bigger, potentially he's a like more buff version of Kurt Angle's son.
Oh, Jason Jordan.
Yeah.
Kurt Angle's son. I like that the black dude. We just both jump like, oh no, that's definitely Kurt's son.
Definitely the son of Perk Angle.
Like, could you imagine? Like, could you imagine doing that scene properly, where both Chad Gable and Jason Jordan were out in the ring, and Kurt's like, "I have to be honest with you, son. I didn't think we'd ever have a day where we'd see face to face, eye to eye." And Chad steps up, and Kurt goes, "Chad, can you get out of the way, Jason?" But like, me and Mark's like, "No, this tracks." Because
it pisses me off to no end, and this speaks to Vince's loony imagination that if you're gonna do that, do something like that,
right?
Because it makes no sense that this black kid is Kurt Angle's son, but you won't ever forget that initial. Oh, really? They did that? Because
But
it got to be a
sense,
certain
though.
camera shot. You got to do a foreground background type shot.
Think about who Kurt Angle is. Think about his proclivities and desires. It makes total sense he'd have a biracial black son.
And because it's us, and me and Chad have basically evolved into the same six sensibilities, eventually this is going to evolve into who's the mom, and you know where we're going with it.
Raka Khan, or Charmel. Did Kurt know Charmel before Booker?
Oh my God.
Did Charmel get bleached?
Did Booker get recommended to be in main event?
I gave you a son all those years ago. Now you need to put my husband in the main event mafia. But he's so annoying, Charmel. He speaks with an African accent. There's no such thing as an African accent.
Oh my God. Oh.
In my home country of Africa. Like, Charmel, do you hear the shit he says? So yeah. That's a great American match. I did like the triple threat. I did. I thought the triple threat was really good. With Dom and Wes and Mustafa. I will say this, I don't know if Dom is getting better. He seems a bit soft in the ring. Great character work. But like whenever I see him in the ring, it's like he's always, I don't want to say going through the motions, because that would imply he's not trying, and that's not true. But like he's always laying off, like I think it was on Wesley, like he hit a form that looked like he just powdered through it, and like he threw it just enough to make it look like they made contact, but like he just fell into him instead, and I'm like, that's ugly. And like I've seen a lot of I see a lot of Dom's matches, and they're never good. They're not bad, but I'm starting to wonder, was he really carried that much by his father? And I'm still wondering why Mustafa Ali has a job. This dude's got about as much charisma as Dominic has good sense and fashion.
Yeah, we talked about it before. I don't know how they're not using him on for like hair commercials and stuff like that. Like there's so much other stuff they could be doing with him if they still had the machinations to do a lot of stuff outside of just the in-ring stuff.
Maybe he's born.
Like he needs to be doing.
Maybelline.
Exactly. Like he needs to be doing press runs and stuff and promoting us. So like, not at all too different. I mean, they basically have retired Titus O'Neil to be an ambassador at this point.
Titus World Slide.
Exactly. So it's interesting, but I do think he's another one of those names, much like Corbin, who's far more, been far more beneficial in NXT than they ever was on the main roster. But that's not saying too much because, like you say, it's still the personality seemingly of a doorknob. But then he gets to play off Wes Lee, so his in-ring gets to play more into it than even more personality. But when it comes to the Dom thing, to your point, I agree. His in-ring work is just adequate. But because the character is working, and he may single-handedly be one of the most hated people in all of wrestling right now, which is only aided by his connection with Rhea, who is on a completely different level. Um, it's just all working together. Like he has heat. The second he picks up that microphone, not at all too different from that one night where Roman got booed for like 20 minutes straight.
And they just said acknowledge me or something like that.
Yeah, something said, oh, this is my yard now,
That's what it
when
was.
left. Yeah, but he gets that every time he gets the mic. Like they shut up for real. The minute he gets the mic, they go and start going in on him. And that's all because of everything that's coming to it from Disrespect to Raid and this whole thing with Rhea and everything. It's working. Like the two people who are benefiting the most from that faction is him and Rhea. Um, but yeah, his in ring work is not. He's good at what he does in terms of like, and a lot of that's character work too, because it's throwing stuff at Eddie and doing stuff like his dad. But the frog splash, the moves here and there, he don't do nothing big or flashy because half of his arsenal is Rhea. So it works for what they're doing. He's probably having one of the best heel runs in the company right now.
I'd like to see what he can do away from Rhea and have a more
Yeah.
extended and expanded offense. Let's talk about a guy who didn't need expanded offense, Kurt Angle. Quote, if I had stuck with the WWE for 20 years, I'd be considered the greatest of all time. Kurt, Bubba, Padre, un amigo, lover of black women and bestiality sex. You already are the greatest of all time. What are you on? This would be like if Tom Brady's like, if I had won one more ring.
one more ring. That's hilarious.
You have 7. You have more rings than Jordan. You don't need an 8th. Kurt, you are the greatest of all time in 2 different companies across 3 different generations. What are you on? Now, it's Kurt. Could be a lot of things. I don't know who's sitting here thinking, oh, yeah, Kurt Angle wasn't that good. What? When we do top 10 countdowns of the greatest wrestlers of all time, we leave Kurt Angle off only because it's an obvious number 1. Top 10 greatest technical wrestlers that's not Kurt Angle.
You know what's funny? You could do a Mount Rushmore with Kurt and put him on there twice with or without hair.
Yeah. You could do it 4 times. You could do Kurt in WWE with the hair. You can do Kurt bald. Kurt when he got to Impact and was doing running somersaults off the stages. And then Kurt with the Main Event Mafia. 4 Kurts. 4 greatest wrestlers of all times. 4 different eras of Kurts.
It's also this weird thing, too, because where Hogan habitually lies intentionally, Kurt, I think, unintentionally does it because, like you said, we don't necessarily knows what he's on, but he's also getting older, and I feel like he doesn't always necessarily remember stuff that he said. This is me paraphrasing. Hasn't he referenced several times that had he stayed in WWE, he may have very well died because of what was going on with him and pill abuse?
No, he has. Yes, he has. At least that I remember. But I don't think the 2 ideas are mutually exclusive. I believe that he believes he would have died in WWE, but he also would have been the greatest of all time. I think those ideas are not, mutually exclusive. They run parallel, but I don't think he regrets to Impact. I don't think that's what he's saying. I think the implication is more that he would be seen definitively as the greatest of all time. Here's the whole quote. I don't regret going to TNA. I absolutely love TNA. I love my 11 years there. I probably would have stayed if the money didn't run out. I knew it was my time to go back to WWE, and I wanted to finish my career where I started. If I go back, the one thing I would change is that I wish I didn't get injured so much. That's what caused the painkiller problem. My painkiller problem caused me to leave the WWE. I felt like if I wasn't going to leave, I was going to end up doing something bad, which was overdose some painkillers. I thought it was right for me to leave. There we go. If I wouldn't have left the WWE and I wouldn't have wrestled there 20 straight years, I really believe to this day I'd be the greatest of all time. That's not me blowing smoke. That's me being honest. I think I would be considered the greatest of all time if I would have stuck with the WWE for 20 years. Here's the thing, though. He is. This is like Jordan going, God, if I just got one more ring, people would put me with LeBron.
Yeah, it's the weirdest thing. I guess there's a line there, and I guess to your mutually exclusive point, there's a different like us watching it and him doing it is like vastly different values. Because in his mind, it's like, okay, I wrestled Shawn a couple times. I've been through Rock, Brock, Eddie, Triple H, all these guys. He definitely should have been somebody that should have competed for the streak. Because he only got to wrestle Undertaker that one time, and that was a phenomenal match. But they should have met more. And then you go down the list of other guys you wish he kind of would have ran into. And maybe in his mind, like he had a solid career in his mind when he left WWE, but it wasn't to the echelon that we already felt like it was. And then he went to Impact, and then that was a whole different thing. So, yeah, to your point, I don't even think it's debatable. Like, just even from before you even touch him in a wrestling perspective, which is God tier, his character work is some of the most memorable stuff in that company. And
Yeah.
most people that we watch in wrestling have to kind of pick. They either phenomenal guy, like you're not gonna remember like well the people that basically have initiated erasure with him. But had he not had his life gone a different way, nobody's talking about a Benoit promo. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like a lot of times it's either this guy's either great in the ring or great on the mic. You don't necessarily get a lot of guys that are phenomenal at both, and he kind of cover all bases. Like he's one of those rare 5'2" players that you get like maybe once a generation. And yeah, but I guess like I said, it kind of is to your analogy. It's kind of like the Tom Brady thing. Like his greatness is always ahead of him, where we're kind of looking at it in the moment because we can grasp it from our perspective because we're not necessarily in it. So I guess that's the benefit of being a fan as opposed to being a guy who's always chasing it.
I just don't know how he doesn't realize how good he is and how he's seen by the world, but that's neither here nor there. So Maki Ito is making her debut in MLW. This isn't something that we're going to talk about. I just wanted to mention it because Maki Ito is hilarious, and MLW needs some female stars. So I think this is a good fit. I just wanted to mention this so people knew.
Real quick, what is that percentage level? Because I did notice that in not MLW, because also I think Katrina's been there with the whole Azteca Underground infusion at certain points, but I know she's more focused on acting these days. But what is the female percentage in the MLW?
The female percentage isn't high. You might get a match every other week or every third week of a month. Um, I don't even know if they have any women who are officially under full time contracts. I know like Alexander Hammerstone and Jacob Fatu, they have full time deals, and I have to imagine with his recent win, Alexander Kane does as well because he just won the world title. But I don't think they have anyone who has a full time deal that's a woman. So they don't have a lot, at least in terms of wrestlers. So I would say maybe 15%, maybe.
Mm.
But they only have an hour TV show, and they constantly switch networks to the point where you never know when their TV show is going to air. So they don't have
Mm.
the budget to always, give a lot of people guaranteed deals. So, like, it happens. Melina made some headlines today. She commented saying that she wished the WWE would get away from using people like Trish Stratus and I would assume others like Mickey James, and would focus on people like Victoria or Tara, depending on how you know her, people like Jazz, herself, and others, because they did just as much work to make the wrestling business matter as well. And she also made a comment saying that, and it wasn't done derogatorily, and that was something that people just don't seem to understand. She's like, I wish more people who help people like Trish get started would get reps. And like, we're talking about like people like Ivory, who carry Trish Stratus in a lot of her matches. People like Jazz, who carry Trish in a lot of her matches. Like Lita, although Lita needed to be carried too. But the thing was, like, people often forget Trish's first year and a half, 2 years as in wrestling was as a manager, and then as a very bad wrestler. She worked at her craft. She got very good. When we talk about, the evolution of a wrestler in real time, it's usually like you point to Trish. In
Mm-hmm.
2005, she was fantastic. In 2002, she was ass.
And
And
showing it.
yeah, yeah. And it's not wrong to sit here and say Trish was not very good when she started wrestling. This is not a slight against her. She's a legend, Hall of Famer. Everyone who's ever seen her work would know that. And Melina wasn't trying to say anything against her legacy. She said that people helped carry Trish at times. And they did. There was no insult. And Melina handled herself with grace, class, and dignity, which is ironic when you think about all the rumors and innuendos dating back to her and Johnny Nitro and Batista back in '05, some 18 years ago. God damn, I'm old. I remember reading the reports about that on wrestling websites. Fuck. But now the news around Melina is that she wants to get back in wrestling for the first time in something 20 years, in 20-something years. I took a break from wrestling for a year. I got to get back into shape because I enjoyed my vacation a little too much, but I'm happy with it. Good for you, girl. I'll get back into shape. I want to do stuff with Alicia Fox. At the same time, I want to start managing. If anything, I want to start doing stuff behind the scenes or anything. Melina can do anything. I want to do everything to make you guys smile and have fun. That's what matters to me. I would love Melina to be an Impact as a tag team wrestler. I think at her age, I think she's like 42, 43. I'm sure her body's broken down. I'm sure she can go a little bit. Because we saw some of her NWA run. It wasn't great, but it was serviceable. Like you'd be like, yeah, I'm glad I got to see that. But I think in a tag team with the right young wrestler or even the right veteran who can still go a little bit better than her, I think she could provide some name value and depth in the tag team division in Impact. But I also think she could provide like that legend to come in, depending on what happens with Mickie James. Gail Kim's not subbing back in the ring. Tara's in her 50s. I think someone like Melina could be that next legend to kind of be in the division for people to try, so to speak. So I think in Impact would be great. She'd do well in MLW. Stay the fuck away from AEW and WWE. I mean, they may pay better, but will you have as much fun?
I don't even think it's about that for at this point. Because I feel like what she spoke to and what she ultimately didn't say, and it's to your point again, but it goes with what we talked about earlier. With you can't necessarily always depend on, if at all, those WWE documentaries, because they've proven time and again just how much they manipulate and doctor their own history to serve whatever narrative they need served at the time at their most ready convenience. So, when it comes to things around Trish and Lita, yeah, we know about, the narratives around them and whatnot, but you don't get the full thing a lot of times with the two of them. Like for Trish, it's always about she was one of the greatest of all time, but they don't go back to when she wasn't, which I think would make for a better story, because she was the girl who was the eye candy around a table match with the damn Dudleys, wearing short leather pants, a high pressing top with the boobs poking out of it, and the hat.
Brother, I thought she was going to drown on her cleavage.
For a long time. There was a time when Stephanie was freaking eye candy, purely. Damn near, on the running SmackDown.
Yeah.
Everybody remember that infamous pan up of her bending over the damn desk?
Yep, when she took over as the GM.
But again, that don't serve the PR narratives, right? And with Lita, I don't know if she's ever been that, wild in the ring. But the aesthetic, the thing with the thong, the baggy pants, the extreme outsiderness of it all, with the high risk moves made her stand out. So like I said, I think if you bring those full stores in total, it'll bring a wider picture. But WWE is all about manipulating the narrative. So that's also what she was speaking to, and with her, she went from, much like them in some ways, went from being pure eye candy as a valet to being one of the best that they had in the ring at one point. So, and very much standing out as a character along with her in ring. So, yeah, I mean, I think if you line up somebody like her Obviously Victoria, Jazz. I think it'll be perfect for her to go in Impact because where would they get the best shot? Like Mickey would have never got the run that she had in Impact in WWE. It was not happening
Mm-mm.
in any fashion to me. We know Tara, probably had some of her best stuff in Impact. A lot of character stuff. We saw the nod and appreciation they showed Jazz. Um, I almost forgot. Did she go in the Hall of Fame or is that a thing?
I don't know. I'd have to
Yeah,
look it up.
I don't know. But she got a good rub and nod with appreciation and obviously tagging with Jordan and stuff. And she loved, I would imagine she liked that there. So I mean, if they did a thing where you had Deanna, Grace, and obviously now Trinity in the ring, and then we got like I guess kind of what they did when the four horsewomen debuted on the roster, and then out comes on the stage Melina, a Jazz, a Victoria, or Melina, Victoria, or put somebody else in that middle spot. And then we kind of have a vets versus new chicks type of thing, and it'll all mesh well because most of those women have actually been in the company, and I think that's something Impact could pull off, and get far better run out of it than if they went somewhere else. Because they go anywhere else, it's just gonna be for a quick, nostalgia pop and nothing else.
I don't think you're wrong. All right, so let's get to the last two stories we got. Firstly, Impact's on the rise. Highest rating since January of 2022. So that's great. I mean, the ratings aren't huge themselves. Apparently, uh, this current week's episode had 153,000 viewers. This matched the highest viewership number since January 27th of 2022 when it hit 182,000 viewers. They scored a .02 rating, and the 18 to 49 demo viewership information has been inconsistent in recent weeks. And honestly, considering that Access TV is what it is, and considering that a lot of Impact has been viewed, I would say, more digitally these days than anything, I would say 180,000 viewers on traditional television is a strong sign. Obviously, we know that they're not a huge company, at least not from what they were, but they're thriving and surviving. They're touring all summer. They're going back to the UK. Big news on that. So like that's great. Things are stable in Impact, and I think that's for right now until they have an influx of cash. The best you can say, or unless they get a real hot angle that boosts their popularity. But that's all there is to say about that. But lastly, let's talk about the G1 Climax and the standings. There are 4 blocks this year, and fans aren't really happy. A lot of fans are talking about how there's too many people and how there's too many mid-tier wrestlers in this group. Usually there's only 2 blocks. This year there's 4. Block A is currently led by the champion of the company, Sonata. Get out of here, Windows Security. I don't need you. Kaito Kiyomiya. I'm great at pronouncing names. He's second, tied with Shota Umino with 6 points. Sonata has 10. Gabe Kidd has 5. Chase Owens has 4. Hikuleo has 4. Yota Toshi has 3. Ren Narita has 2. Will Ospreay leads Block B and tied with Kazuchika Okada. Taichi, your boy, has 6 points. Yoshihashi has 4. Elephant Phantasma has 4. Tongalo has 4. Kenta has 4. And the Great Okan has 2. David Finlay leads Block C, tied with Evil, with Tama Tonga at 7 in third. Eddie Kingston with 6 at fourth. Shingo Takagi right behind him. Mikey Nichols right behind him. Hinare at 2. And Tomohiro Ishii at 2 as well. Block D is a little bit of a shocking development. Jeff Cobb is currently in the lead, tied with Zachary Sabre Jr. with 8. Tetsuya Naito has 6. Hiroshi Tanahashi has 6. Hiroki Goto has 4. Shane Ace has 4. Alex Coughlin 2. And Toru Yano has 2. There's still a bit to go. How many matches are left? 1, 2. Looks like there's 2 matches left for just about every wrestler, so we still got a few weeks. And then the finals will see the the Block A1 winner taking on the C2 block winner. C2 runner-up. So it's going to be the winners versus the runner-ups. B1 will take on D2, C1 will take on B2, D1 will take on A2. So that right now, Sonata has clinched the spot in the finals, so he's currently scheduled to face Evil. Then we have, what do we have? We have Block 1, B1 taking on D2. B1 is currently Will Ospreay, and that's Zachary Sabre Jr. I'd love to see that. That'd be fun. C1 taking on B2. That means Dave Finlay taking on Okada. I don't know about that. They're pushing Dave Finlay real hard, and I'm not sure about him. And then lastly, you got D1 taking on A2, which is going to be Jeff Cobb taking on Kaito Kiyomiya, who is the Pro Wrestling Noah GHC champion. That's why I recognize the name. I forgot that they had some Noah guys in this tournament. And I think the best of the Super Juniors is about to kick off, isn't it? Best
of the Super Juniors.
Super Juniors.
Okay.
Because I think Rich Swan's in it.
I might be thinking about the Super Junior tag that happened. So yeah, this might be the singles. Yeah.
Let's see. Best of the Super Juniors 2023. Oh, it's already happened. Final standings. Master Wato defeated Teton. When did that? In May? Then it must have been. It must be the tag.
Yeah, because Rush was in it. Yeah, and yeah.
Is that what it is? Super Junior Tag League? I just saw something. Hang on. Super Junior. Oh, okay. It wasn't for the tag league. It was the All-Star Festival. That's what it's for. Rich Swann, Ace Austin, Low Key. No, I'm sorry, not Low Key. Rich Swann, Ace Austin, Low Rider, TJP, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, Robbie Eagles, Jordan Oliver, Mao, Yao, Miles from DDT, Yo from New Japan, Clark Connors, Blake Christian, Master Wato, Hiromu Takahashi, Nick Wayne, Rocky Romero, El Desperado, Shun Skywalker out of Dragon Gate, Mike Bailey, Doki, and Dragon Kid. That's who it is. And apparently Matt Seidel is also joining up. So it's a Super Junior lineup, but it's just not a Super Junior tournament. It's a festival. That's my bad. Marcus, how are you feeling about the G1 Climax? Anything? Any thoughts?
No, it's nice to hear about Cobb, and obviously, as the champion, Sonata should be leading the pack. But other than that, can't really say I'm too over the moon about the names. And even with 2 blocks, the G1 has always been an arduous affair, arduous affair in terms of, because you never disappoint a lot of times in the action, but you can't have too much, as we talked about before, too much of a good thing. And, like I said, 2 blocks tends to be enough, even when you're trying to consistently watch it before, and then you don't necessarily have the talent to make it like, you got a Ishii here and there, a Sonata here and there, the Lowells, and then other than that, it's like, who's the rest of the guys? Like Dave Finlay's Bullet Club. He's like, no, I'm good. I'm good.
Maybe Dave Finlay turns it around. I'll certainly keep some space for him. I'm just not going to bank on it, so to speak.
Yeah.
All right, Marcus, I think that's about it for the week. Anything else cross your desk that you want to mention?
No, that was about it. And also, kudos to Impact getting those numbers up. I'm sure a lot of that has to do with our boy Hendry putting out those musical hits.
Say his name and he appears. I think it's a combination. I think Alex Shelley winning the title. I think Trinity being involved. Not having to deal with Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows. May they never join again. Ever. I mean, sincerely, get the fuck out. I had to look up. They're still wrestling. You wouldn't know it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, AJ needs guys.
Are they even with AJ? Is AJ even still wrestling?
Oh,
I know he was hurt.
They're the faction with Michin, who is Mia Yim.
Oh.
And they're currently beefing with Karrion Cross, who seems to be handling himself pretty well, practically by himself with his witch wife against a team of 4.
Michin.
Yeah.
It sounds like something you. It sounds like just no. I know it means like crazy, but like sometimes just look how it sounds before you. Like, yeah, I get it. Mia Yim wants to be crazy. Jade wants to be crazy. I get it. Pick a better fucking name. Oh, that'll never not bother me. All right, I forgot about them. They're so irrelevant to the wrestling zeitgeist unless you're paying attention to Friday Night SmackDown. And I try to. I don't. All right.
Shout out to our boy LA Knight, man, getting all kinds of crowd participation. Absolutely killing it right now.
He should be the champ. We all know it. He should beat Roman Reigns. He should beat Seth Rollins. But they're not going to do it because he's 40 and he's already pissed off people for knowing he's better than them. How dare he?
Oh, man.
All right, that's it for us. Check out the website, realnerdcorp.com, REALNERDCORP.com. We're on Twitter at NERDCORP. We're not on the Instagram anymore. You can find us on our personals. Marcus, you're on Twitter, Paradox Kid, PARADOXKID.
That's me.
You can also find him on his other podcast, The True Penny Show, over on Twitter at True Penny Show, TruePennyShow. We will not call it X. That's so fucking stupid. So yeah, check them out. They cover a lot of international content. They're currently doing Glee, so I'm sure they're going to talk more about New Japan stuff. Check them out. They're good. You can also find me on my personals at Chad Nerdcorp, CHEDNERDCORP, and on the Instagram at Chad's Photo at CHADSPHOTOHUT. That's CHADSPHOTOHUT. I have speaking problems tonight. Yay. So for Marcus Green, I'm Chad Portal. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for giving us a chance. Remember, as always, to watch more wrestling. And Marcus, take us home.
Good night.